Good morning, everybody. So, we've been thinking a lot about forgiveness in our collective worship over the last few weeks. And I'm going to ask you now what you think the word feud means. One dictionary says it's lasting mutual hostility. That is, hostility on both sides between two tribes, families, or people. So it's when two people have a dispute, or two groups have a dispute, that continues and continues and continues. I'm going to read you a really famous story about how a feud developed. Does anyone know the title of what is probably the most famous love story in the world? That's right, Romeo and Juliet. Now, Shakespeare, who's a very famous playwright, turned this story into a play, although he himself didn't make up the story. The story is a tragedy because it has an unhappy ending, and the unhappy ending is the result of a feud between two families to which Romeo and Juliet belonged. The two families were called the Montagues and the Capulets. So, the Montagues and the Capulets were amongst the chief families of Verona in Italy. But for longer than anyone could remember, there had been a bitter feud between them. If members of the two families met in the streets, there was sure to be a fight. People on both sides of this feud had been killed. Romeo, who was the son of Lord Montague, attended a feast given by Lord Capulet. He went in disguise, otherwise he would have been dealt with very quickly. Whilst he was there, he saw Juliet, the daughter of Lord Capulet. They fell in love with each other. There was no hope that they would be allowed to marry openly, so they agreed to marry in secret. The wedding took place next day with the help of Friar Lawrence. The good friar intended to tell about the marriage at a suitable moment. Alas, Romeo was caught up in a street fight with his enemies and the prince, who ruled the city, banished him to Mantua as a punishment. Julia was very sad and pined for Romeo. Her father, Lord Capulet, thought it was time she married and suggested Count Paris, who was a kinsman. Julia made excuses, but in the end her father insisted. She went for advice to Friar Lawrence, who told her to agree to the marriage, but before it was to take place, she must drink a potion. This would do her no real harm, but it would make her unconscious and it would look as though she were dead. The effect of the drug would only last 40 hours. The friar promised to warn Romeo of what she had done. Romeo would come to rescue her from the vault where he would be lying and carry her to Mantua and safety. But things went badly wrong. Romeo did not get the friar's message. Instead, he heard that Juliet was dead. He bought a poison and came to the vault where Juliet lay. Outside the vault, he met Count Paris. They drew their swords. Paris was killed. Romeo went into the vault to see Juliet for the last time. He gave her a parting kiss, then took the potion and died. Juliet, of course, then woke up and found him. She guessed what had happened and she stabbed herself through the heart and died. So, the tragic story ended. Because of the evil that grew and flourished through the years, through a refusal to forgive, two innocent members of those feuding families died. Evil feeds and grows like a disease. The only thing we can do to stop it is that willingness to forgive. And at the end of this story about the Montagues and the Capulet families, they saw what had happened and realised what their senseless feud had done. And at last they were reconciled to one another, but it was too late for Romeo and Juliet. Now, one of the reasons that forgiveness is one of our school values is because it is so central to the gospel and the Christian religion. After Jesus had taught his disciples to pray, which is a part of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 14 to 15, he talks about forgiveness and he says this: If you forgive others the wrongs they have done to you, your Father in heaven will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, then your Father will not forgive the wrongs you have done. So I want us to just take a moment of quiet reflection and think about how, if we do not forgive, something small can grow into something big. We don't want to be in a situation where a feud develops between us and other people. So use this time to consider how we can forgive early on to stop things getting bigger and out of control. And we're now going to say a prayer. If you'd like to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end. If you do not wish to pray, just listen to the words and think your own thoughts. Lord, you have taught us that if we wish to be forgiven, then we must also forgive. Help us to forgive the wrong things that are done to us. Help us to be peacemakers. Sometimes it is very hard to forgive because we feel that others may think we are afraid or weak. But you have taught us that without forgiveness, there can be no happiness or joy or peace. So if you'd like to sing a song, you can go to the front page of the website where we loaded a new song up there yesterday. I hope you have a lovely day if you're at school and if you're learning from home, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Goodbye and God bless.